But first, the former head of the Australian Nuclear Science and Technology Organisation, we know it as ANSTO, says that nuclear is, quote, the only rational choice for a post-coal dispatchable power.
Australia really needs to know that without nuclear, we are going to be the most expensive electricity destination in the world, and we're very unlikely to be competitive in any form of economy. We can have these safe, always on, always available plants, keeping the price of electricity down at the lowest levels. I think we're moving into a phase where they're talking about tripling the amount of nuclear in the world in the next 20 to 30 years.
He might be the country's top nuclear science expert, but that won't stop the national broadcaster trying to howl down anyone arguing that Australia must adopt nuclear power on land, and the sooner we do, the better. On the ABC's flagship current affairs program last night, 7:30 report host Sarah Ferguson didn't so much interview the coalition's energy spokesman, Ted O'Brien, as she engaged in poisonous sniping. A few witnesses in a court case have been treated as roughly as O'Brien, with every answer interrupted by the so-called interviewer. Indeed, it wasn't so much a hostile cross-examination as a Soviet-style interrogation.
Stop you. I'm just going to. I know it's jumping in very quickly, but forgive me because
no, that's okay.
We've spoken to a lot of experts, and there's a lot of expertise on the table from the CSIRO over a number of years.
Right.
So let's.
So before construction, you're right. You do need to stand up a regulator and so forth.
I'm just going to ask you a question now.
Can I answer that question?
Let me just say this one thing, because I think this is very important for the audience.
Right now, we are in a mess because we have somebody with one-liners trying to run the system.
To be fair to him, he was talking about a whole series of things. That was the thing.
No, that was specific. We already have blackouts. It's getting worse, and our renewables target is failing. And we have this government
to talk about nuclear energy. So let's not waste time talking about the government for the moment. No, I'm going to stop you there.
I mean, it was extraordinary. O'Brien was trying to make the reasonable point that Australia could go from decision to operational nuclear power within 3 to 5 years using small modular nuclear reactors, or within 6 to 12 years with a large nuclear plant, just like the one built in the Emirates. But Ferguson would have none of that. She kept insisting that what O'Brien was saying was impossible because Australia was coming off a standing start.
In a comparable economy is a lot more than the time frame that you're describing. In the United States, it's 19 years on average. So how does Australia, with no supporting laws, no regulations, no workforce, no experience, no waste plans, no social licence, do it in under 10 years?
Now, even though, as I said last night, in the Emirates, they've gone from letting contracts to a South Korean-led nuclear consortium in 2009, starting work in 2011, first generating power in 2020, to being fully operational today. Now, this is a 5,500 megawatt nuclear facility capable of supplying 25% of the oil-rich UAE's power. And that went from start to finish in under 15 years and cost $35 billion. Compare that with Malcolm Turnbull's Snowy project. Now, it's little more than a third of the UAE's nuclear plant's power capacity. That was a project originally costed at $2 billion. It's blown out now to at least $12 billion. It was meant to be operational 2 years ago in 2022, but we're not going to see it until 2029 now, or possibly later. Now, apart from rubbishing O'Brien's view that Australia should join the other 30-plus countries already with nuclear power, and mostly with lower power prices than Australia, Ferguson's main objective was to paint the coalition as pro-coal. Now, O'Brien pointed out that 90% of our current dispatchable power generation was coal. Yeah, that was all meant to be fully closed down within a decade, and that would mean, if it happens, the lights going out.
Our view is we should not be closing our coal-fired power stations prematurely. Now, the reason I say that is, as of today, we are looking at 90% of our baseload energy exiting the grid by 2034. So we're talking within a decade, 90% of our baseload energy gone because of Labor's policy settings. Now, Sarah, the lights will go out.
He said that Labor's real policy was to keep coal going via those secret deals we've discussed in Victoria and the talks currently going on in New South Wales to keep Eraring open. But that didn't stop Ferguson trying to make out that it was the coalition and only the coalition that was pro-coal.
The question was, is it your policy to keep coal-fired power stations running longer? Are you saying the lights
will go out if that happens?
It is going to be coalition policy that you will keep those coal-fired power stations running longer than the dates that have been set in train now?
No, they're your words.
I mean, they're the decisions taken by the companies and the organisations that run those power stations.
We have a massive problem in this country. And it's not just the misinformation on the ABC, or that doesn't help. We need a rational debate about the big issues facing our nation, and one of those is 24/7 power. All modern economies need it to prosper and to maintain energy security. Yet the renewable power that we're supposed to depend on in just a few years' time only works when the wind blows and the sun shines. Firming or backup power supplies that can be turned on quickly when renewables fail, well, they require gas. The Greens and Labor now want to ban gas. Batteries, well, they're hugely expensive, highly polluting and not grid scale. They might help power a home for a few hours, but they won't work for factories or cities. And green hydrogen, well, it's a boondoggle. It's nowhere near proven, let alone cost effective. Yet the Green Left, including the ABC, are now mounting the mother of all scare campaigns to say that we must not do what 30 plus other countries are doing, and that we must not do on land what even the Albanese government says we can do and must do on sea, and namely, that's to rely on nuclear power generation. After all, much of the uranium used overseas is Australian uranium mined here. Now, if we really do have to get to net zero, and the only way we can do that and keep the lights on is to go nuclear. So thank God Peter Dutton and his team and Ted O'Brien there look like they are up for the fight. This issue is not political, or at least it shouldn't be. It's about the national interest. And if the Prime Minister is so sure he's right, why then is he running scared from a debate with Dutton?